when appropriate, and be open to listening to what people have to say. Additionally, when speakers are presenting, please click into speaker mode for the best viewing experience.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie, and I'm a second year YAC member. Yeah. First, I would like to introduce a little bit about NYLC and the YAC. NYLC has been around for over 50 years, and we support teachers, youth leaders, young people, and to create the change they want to see in their world. The process of service learning specifically to actually offering a way to apply what we learn as leaders to making a difference in these. NYLC also honors and is committed to hence the NYLC Youth Advisory Council. The YAC is how I this national and global effort and how all of the from today are involved. We meet with leaders to advise on programming, co-facilitate professional development, and build our leadership skills in the community. What is extra cool is that we have the ability to plan, prepare, and lead this annual Youth Leadership Summit. All right, here's the agenda for today. We actually have speakers today, along with a activity in the middle. And before I hand it off to Marissa one more time, here are some of NYLC if you want to stay connected. All right.
Yo, 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 hello everybody. My name is Clarissa Coleman, and I've already introduced myself, but here what we're going to be doing is playing an activity or a game. Most of you know it's called Would You Rather. So before we begin, we'll play this game, and to go over the quick rules, we'll look at different choices in the next slides, and you'll have to decide between the categories which is more appealing to you. And don't be afraid to send your category choice in the chat. So we definitely want everybody to participate. So let's jump into the icebreaker. All right, would you rather be a captain of a ship or an airplane pilot? Let's see some of those responses. Would you rather? Okay, I'm seeing, ooh, okay, we got a lot of mixed results here. I see pilot, ship, captainship, airplane pilot, okay. Oh, all caps captainship, okay. All right, all right. I think I see a lot of the ship, but the pilot is coming close second. Me personally, I definitely like to be a captain of the ship. You know, who doesn't enjoy the water? Like, come on now, guys. All right, all right, all right. Thank you guys so much for participating. We're gonna go to our next Would You Rather. Now, this is the highlight of the game. Would you rather give up bathing for a month or give up internet for a month? Okay, thankfully I'm seeing a lot of internet, but I'm seeing some bathing in the chat. Guys, hygiene is too important to not bathe for an entire month. Let's get together. It's 2026. So internet. Good, good. See, bathing. Somebody said bathing. Just take a shower. Don't bathe. Just shower. I need internet for school. Showering and come on. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, internet is definitely the winner here. So we're gonna go to the next one. I'll have a conversation with you bathing folks at the end. Okay, would you rather drink only water from now on or eat only salad from now on? Only water. Yes, yes. I see some salads. Guys, water is good for you. Salad is not. Pizza and burgers are much better. I don't know where we're getting this. Like, water, yes, water, water. I see some head nods, see some head nods. Salad has water. Maybe. Only water. Salad is unhealthy. Yes, DeAndre. Yes. Yes, DeAndre. Yes, he understands. Somebody said eat only salad. It's pretty much all I can eat anyway. Water tastes terrible. You can put packets in the water, to make it. Okay. LOL. Okay, let's go on to our next part. Would you rather give up pizza or give up ice cream? Pizza? Okay, I don't know. I'm not giving up either, but I see a lot of ice cream pizzas. I saw somebody say neither in the chat. That's the correct
What's that?
answer.
I'm here. What's
Pizza, pizza. Neither, neither. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of neithers. And to be honest, I know the game's called Would You Rather, but you guys are honestly killing it. Because why would you give up either of those? I love both of them. Yes, yes, yes.
Either.
There we go. Neither. I understand. Somebody sent a picture. Wow. All right, let's go. Pizza's not for me. Okay, understood. Well, thank you guys so much for playing the game, and now we'll hand it over um to our first speaker.
All right, everyone. So without further ado, let's begin with the summit. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline Kayum, and I'm a high school senior from Overdy Tompkins High School in Houston, Texas. This is my second year with NYLC, and today I'll be introducing our first speaker
You're
of
not
the day,
Eric.
Eric Wolfred. Eric Wolford is the founder of IDD Empower AI, a project dedicated to the empowerment of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, also known as IDD, through innovative AI solutions. He has been a software executive at big and small companies, including 24 years at Microsoft, where he led the team that built Office for iOS and Mac computers. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities are amazing people, and his personal and now professional mission is to help bring more of their talents into the world. He serves on the board of directors for Special Olympics Northern California, and he also gets to coach or compete alongside Special Olympics athletes nearly every week of the year. Eric, we are so excited to have you here. Now I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Madeline, and thank you, Natalie, for the invite. I'm honored to be here with this group. And I made a little slideshow to help with my talk. Is it okay if I share that? I'll just see if that works. And I'll see if the host might need to give me permission. So there you go. It looks like it's working. Is that working well enough for everybody? All right, I see some heads nodding. So, and hey, Natalie, I wonder if I could tap you to help. I think I'll try to talk for about 20 minutes, and that should leave at least 10 minutes for questions from the audience. And chat's a great place to see them, but I'm going to have a hard time keeping up with the chat. So, Natalie, since you invited me, and I think you're part of the Yak, if you wouldn't mind keeping track and helping me answer the most common questions when I'm done, that would be great. So I can't see you on my screen right now, but I will presume that's good.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, excellent. Thank you for jumping in. Okay, so for those who might not have need some help with seeing my picture, I am Eric Wilfred. I am a white man, middle-aged, with glasses. I'm wearing a collared shirt with a little Special Olympics Northern California logo. Uh, my background is blurred because my office is a little messy right now. And my hair is brown, but kind of turning gray. Um, and my talk today, I am so excited to talk with this group. When I heard about your focus on service learning, and when I heard that the mission of the group is connected to the famous Gandhi quote about being the change you wish to see in the world, I thought this is a perfect fit. Um, and I know that you are all interested in leadership, and that you are generally high school students. And I think that's a great age to start learning about different ways of leading and to start trying out some ways of leading that um, may become super important in your lives. So talk is about radical inclusion. So it's about disability, leadership, and shifting power. So what I hope to cover is a little bit of understanding disability, some experiences I've had learning and acting as a disability inclusion aware leader. I'll talk about my theory that I like to call radical inclusion and what that means and why it works. Um, I'll talk a little bit about the work that I'm doing now, just as an example of a way to build a future and shift power. Leadership is always about power. And then I'll share a few places that, really books, that you can read to learn some more. When I think about disability, I think about two models. There's a model on the left of the screen that says medical model, which focuses on the person, the disabled person this is, and focuses on their impairment, their illness, their problem, what's wrong with this person, and how can we fix it? This is actually the model that first took root in certainly American society. I saw in the chat there are a lot of international folks, and I wasn't expecting that, but I'll kind of focus on the US because that's where I've spent my whole life. There's another model of disability, which is called the social model, which acknowledges up front, yes, there are people with disabilities, and those disabilities often come with impairments. But what really makes it hard for those people with disabilities to fully participate in society, to do their best work, to be anyone's friend, to be anyone's neighbor, to be anyone's teammate, are the social boundaries. It's not so much that you have difficulty walking, it's that there's a lot of buildings that are inaccessible, just to take one example. And you'll see many other examples out there on the diagram. When you hear people talk about disability or talk about somebody who is disabled, you won't often hear the words medical model or social model, but you might hear some terms around it. You know, if you're hearing somebody think in the medical model, they might talk about, uh, you know, uh, talk first and only about assistive devices, or talk about helping that person, talk about that person overcoming challenges, talk about them succeeding in spite of, yeah, their impairments. When you talk about the social model, you'll much more often hear about doing things with people with disabilities, finding somebody's superpower, um, figuring out what it took to change our group, to change our community, to change the environment so that that person can bring their full self and be a part of what makes all of us great together. And that changing the environment, changing our group, changing the world, that is the job of leadership. And so that's what I hope we will all focus on today. Now, it's not so much medical model bad, social model good. I mean, there are assistive devices, there are medicines, there are therapies that really help. And it's important to really understand impairment to be able to think about it as a person with disabilities or as their ally. But mostly, when you as a leader are thinking about people with disabilities and people with disabilities on your team, you want to think in that social model way as much as possible. And that gives you a way to create the change that you want to see in the world. So, the most powerful example for me of how I really started learning about disability and how it intersected with leadership was during my time at Microsoft. So, I was the general manager. I had been there for a decade or more now. I had gotten to a pretty senior position where I was general manager of the Office for Mac team, and we had this big challenge: go make Office on a mobile device. As iPhones were taken off, iPad had just launched. It was pretty clear that somebody ought to do that and that it ought to be us. And right about that time, my son Colin is autistic. And I was starting to think as he was becoming a teenager about what would it look like for him to be part of an organization in the long run. Um, and at the same time, this is before there was any kind of inclusive hiring program at Microsoft, but there was this small band of people, mostly parents of autistic people, running around saying, I wonder if we could find some examples of people with autism who could succeed at our company. And I was, I believe, the first general manager to put my hand up and say, yeah, let's try that in my team. So we hired this young man, Will, for a job that we really needed help with in managing our lab. In our lab, we basically kept every kind of Macintosh with every kind of operating system and every kind of iPhone and every kind of iPad and a whole bunch of servers that would go create our software. And back in the day, is really before there was a cloud, and this would be often somebody's data center. This was right in our building, and we needed somebody to do the very detailed, very important work of keeping track of all of that. And Will had a lot of skills, and we brought him in. He had a job coach. He had some support. And the way that I thought about that at first, just growing up in the United States and not having a lot of experience with people with disabilities, was really around the medical model. Like, okay, I need to focus on Will and making sure that he has the right supports to make sure that he doesn't make the obvious mistakes. And I need to focus on like the two or three people who are going to work with him most directly and make sure they know what's going on. Um, and after that, like, yeah, this is not a thing that really needs a lot of the team's attention. We're off making this product. We're off transitioning this business. We're off doing something super important for the world. Um, yeah, it turns out that didn't work. Right? And the thing that I learned was how important it is to lead from the social model. Um, the day that that became clear was the day that Will got stuck in the elevator. Um, Not because the elevator broke, but because in Will's experience, he hadn't ever really been in charge of operating the elevator and knowing how to push the buttons and knowing when to get in, when it's safe to get in and when it's safe to get out, and anticipating when the doors would open. And all the team noticed. It's not a usual thing at a world-class technology company to have an employee who's stuck in the elevator. Um, and one of my most capable employees came by my office and said, "What the hell are you doing? Right? How are you hiring this guy when we're out trying to change the world who can't get out of the elevator?" And at that moment, after a little bit of thinking it through, I realized, okay, we actually really need to change the environment here. Right? First of all, the support that Will needed to get out of the elevator was like 5 minutes, right? A little bit of a session with a job coach, like, oh, here's how you do it. Now I got it. And then, 10 more minutes of practicing and he's got it for life. Right? That was not the hard part. Um, the thing that I needed to do is first of all to be way more open, right? To tell the whole team in an all hands meeting, this is what we're doing. This is why it's important to me. This is why I think in order to really change the world, to embrace our company vision of empowering every person and organization on the planet to reach their potential, um, we need to be about including every person in the way that we build our products. And we all need to think about what is it that's hard for us. I mean, it's probably not the elevator, but maybe it's the 7 a.m. meetings, right, that we're doing with our partners in Europe. Right? Maybe it's the ability to process fast enough when information is just verbal. Maybe it's the practices of high pressure, one shot meetings with executives being the only way that decisions are made. There's all sorts of things that are part of our environment that are just kind of the way that we're used to doing them that were actually difficult for team members. Um, and some of that is because of disability, some of that's for other reasons. One important thing to know about disability is that the majority of disabilities, I think it's about 70%, are invisible. So if you're just looking around thinking like, are there disabled people around here? There's probably about 3 times more than you would guess. So on your teams, not just when you're a leader, but when you're a teammate, you will have people with disabilities. Now, Will is still at Microsoft, and I'm super proud of that. He's still doing great work. That program that didn't exist back when we hired Will now is full force. There's an inclusive hiring program at Microsoft that started with people with autism and has now expanded to all disabilities. Um, and I'm really proud. I can't take credit for scaling that program, but I'm really proud to have been a part of the beginning of it and being an example. The theory of leadership that I follow, I like to call radical inclusion. It's hanging right over there. This is a piece of art that I have in my office. Um, and when I think about the job of a leader, especially a non-disabled leader who has disabled people on their team who have a lot to offer, like Will did, I think there's really three components. The first is identifying opportunities. Right? What are we trying to get done, and how can each person on our team best contribute to that? The second job of a leader is to find the support. Right? What do you need to do that? Right? It might be disability specific support. It might be getting a new computer. It might be making sure that you don't have other meetings that get in the way. And the third job is get out of the way. Right? Once you've got somebody on a challenge, once you've got them set up, um, they might need some support in the end. There might be a big decision to make at some point, but mostly, especially those of us who are kind of eager to get in and do stuff, like mostly as a leader, we have this big danger that's hard to remember that we might actually get in the way by doing too much. And that really works well is to let the person cook a little while, see how it's going, focus on the results. Don't be so focused on this doesn't look like the way the last person did it, but focus on what's getting done. And that to me is radical inclusion. Um, the place where I get to experience radical inclusion the most is in Special Olympics. Um, so turns out, Will, when we weren't talking about work and we would meet up in the break room when he first joined the team, all Will wanted to talk about was Special Olympics. And I had no idea. Right? Even though we had an autistic son, we didn't think Special Olympics was for him. Even though as an athlete, I didn't think this was really sports. I thought it was kind of one of those programs where you just get people on the field and cheer for them no matter what happens. Like, nah, it's not that. Like Will's talk about Special Olympics was, I got the gold last year, and I'm so disappointed I got the silver this year, and we're gonna practice harder and go get those guys. Which is like, wait, like there's competition, there's real sports, and tell me more about how you got into this. And before long, I was going to see him play, and then I was coaching, and then I was a unified partner, and then I was a board member. Um, Will and I work together in Seattle. I've now moved down to Northern California, and I'm still doing it there. There is a Special Olympics program where you are, anywhere, essentially anywhere in the world. Certainly in the United States, if you go to that link down the bottom, specialolympics.org/slash programs, you'll find your local program. That probably works worldwide too. But anyway, more than just Will. One story that I think really crystallizes radical inclusion and what leadership looks like with people with disabilities, not for people with disabilities, is a few years ago, I started playing unified football. So I get to play football on Sundays in the fall. Not with the Seahawks, though I would love that, and I'm glad they're still playing. But with Special Olympics Unified, where I am not the coach. It's flag football, so it's a little different, but if I'm effectively the linebacker and the tight end, and there's some other person with intellectual and developmental disabilities who is the quarterback. And I'm counting on that guy for us to be able to score touchdowns. And I care just as much as Will did about getting the gold this year and not the silver. And that kind of relationship is just so powerful in how it helps you figure out in a hurry how you work together best, what that person is best at, and how you get that to shine. So Jose was our quarterback. And Jose throws dimes, right? He's right on target every time. Field vision is amazing. Right? He completely understands the game. He'll throw to the open person. He won't throw interceptions. Just, yeah, fantastic asset to the team. And Jose couldn't do the snap count. Right? His voice was just really soft, and his verbal processing speed when he was speaking was so slow that it just didn't work for him to do, blue 80, hut, hut, just the snap count, like not the most important thing of being a quarterback. But it took us a couple of weeks of practice actually trying to like fix Jose. Like, okay, Jose, scream loud. Okay, Jose, let's go faster. before we realized, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. The environment could also use some change. Like, why does the quarterback have to do the snap count? Right? We just have the running back standing next to him do the snap count instead. The center can still listen to that person. All right. That's Ryan, who was the running back. He was delighted to do the snap count. He's super loud, and he also has great field vision. So he knew the few times we had to call an audible, and oh my goodness, it just worked. And only because we were willing to fundamentally change the environment were we able to get the best quarterback on the field to be able to do his best work. And yeah, we got the gold that year. So if there's one thing I will leave you with, it's get involved, right? Special Olympics, please, like especially if you're passionate about sports, but even if you're not, um, knowing the sport that you're participating in is a nice to have, but willingness to make those kind of connections and lead in the way that includes people with disabilities is the essential thing. If it's not Special Olympics, find some other opportunity where you are volunteering with people with disabilities, not for people with disabilities, where you are part of a team where you're able to lead. And you also notice on that football team, is I am not the coach, I am a teammate. Leadership does not depend on having positional authority. It's kind of nice to be the general manager sometimes, but not mostly. Leadership is about going and being the person who jumps in and figures out what needs to get done. And oh, I can do that. And here's how I think we all can do that together. That to me is leadership. All right, here's what I'm working on now. I've left Microsoft and I have founded my own startup called IDD Empower AI. Our mission is to empower people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is like autism, like Down syndrome, like lots of other conditions, and lots of other ways of being that don't really have a name in terms of a condition, but where there is a mismatch between the way a person's brain works and the way that society expects that person's brain to work. And so we are using modern AI to help change the world to help address that mismatch. Um, I appreciate that my company logo got in my intro slide. That is an e-bicycle of the mind, inspired by Steve Jobs' quote that computers are a bicycle of the mind, um, which I think works brilliantly and now as much as it did ever. And with the advent of AI, there's a little bit of an extra power boost that's possible. So I love that e-bicycle metaphor. Like there's a lot more people who can get a lot further on an e-bike than a bike that's not an e-bike. And it's also a little dangerous. So like seriously in real life, I think one thing that I tell my kids and that your parents would probably tell you is if you're riding an e-bike, please wear a helmet. And back in metaphor land, like we do actually have to be a little careful that this new power doesn't wind up being too dangerous for its own good. But my belief in how to think about AI as a builder is that and another Steve Jobs quote, the clearest way to predict the future is to go create it. That the thing that we can do right now is to use the capabilities that already exist and go build a thing that represents how we want the world to be. And I think most importantly to me, that go build a thing that helps shift power towards people who don't have it right now, and whose contribution we might be missing in society. And for me, that's absolutely people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who have about 5 times the unemployment rate of the general population, who have a shorter life expectancy, not because of any underlying medical condition, but because it's harder to find great doctors who are willing to treat them, and especially in the US system, to be well funded. Um, and who have not quite achieved that goal that Eunice Kennedy Shriver, the founder of Special Olympics, so powerfully articulated that everybody has the right to be anyone's friend, anyone's neighbor, anyone's coworker, and to play on the best fields. So just 2 examples of things that I've built so far. The one on the left, the plain language interpreter. is actually in beta. If you go to the website and go to the product section, if you're interested in signing up to try it, fill out the form. And somewhere in the